old.
All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Athens-Clarke County Board of Election voter registration. Date is May 14th. The time is 4:34 p.m. We're at 120 West Doherty Street. First item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Chair entertains a motion to adopt.
I so moved.
Okay. All right. Motion, Ms. Fambro, second, Mr. Kadir. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda is adopted. Next item on the agenda are the approval of minutes from the April 9th regular meeting. Take a moment to review and then the floor is open for. A motion?
I so move that we adopt the agenda.
No, approve the minutes.
Approve of the minutes.
Okay, from April 9th.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are adopted. You capture the motion. Next item on the agenda is public comment. First person listed under public comment is Jacqueline Elsner. We should just kind of bullet her in every time. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Jacqueline Elsner, 315 Caldwell Circle, Hello. And I'm talking today about something that was in the National Constitution on May 9, that the state election board is writing a new rule as of May 8 that would require a reasonable inquiry, in their words, before certifying Georgia elections. And it's based on a request from a Republican County Election Board member who refused to sign off on this year's presidential preference primary. And the text of the state election board rule is included here. And I've watched y'all certify our elections. And I mean, the one and only time I've been present when there was a delay in certifying was November 2018, and I'm sure Director Susan remembers. And that's a whole different situation from May 2024. And I watched this board and I watched our staff absolutely conduct free and fair elections with integrity, that the results that are presented to y'all are certified. And I never have seen the five of you conduct yourself as if you're going to challenge that our elections, you would not certify the election, what you did. But this state election board rule is because there have been several counties that have election board members who were refusing to certify the presidential preference primary. And only because the majority of election board members voted to certify were those counties certifying their election. So we could end up with 2024 being the year that Georgia just doesn't want to certify our November election. And I wanted to ask y'all to consider making a resolution and sending it to the state election board saying, this is our view of this, of y'all writing this rule. And whatever you could come up with, but I would find this to be quite problematic and unnecessary, certainly in Clarke County. So thank you, friends.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the director's report. The floor is yours when you're ready.
All right. Awesome. I'm here. All right. So I have for you today a report of activity for April. On behalf of Pam, who is at the office, waiting for the close of advanced voting and to receive data from our locations. We have for this month a total active voters of 69,940, a total inactive 12,657, giving us a total of 82,597 eligible voters for the month of April. We produced 18 IDs, a little bit higher, just a little higher from last month. We will be removing or have removed from our voter rolls 106 voters. 75 are deceased and 31 are felon removals. The second item on my update is the department's focus, and a couple of things on there is the Spanish translation project update. We have used $442 of $50,000 that was allotted to us in our budget for translation. And I'll pass this folder around so you can see the items that we have translated. One of the main projects that I'm very excited about providing to our Spanish speaking community is the sample ballots. We do have those available for referencing at the polling locations if someone needs translation of the ballots. We did have a couple of voters, I believe, 1 or 2 voters that came in together last week that needed assistance with language, the Spanish translation. And we did not have the sample ballot available, but we did get contact information and we have sent that information to the voters, and hopefully they will have that so that they can vote and be able to vote freely under.
Are these available in PDF from the website?
They are available PDF, not on our website. We can get those on our website though.
Because don't you usually put the one that you kind of make in there anyway?
We usually do, but we've moved towards providing everybody a link to the My Voter page. But I believe we can do this and indicate that it is Spanish, that English versions can be accessed through the My Voter page.
Yes, no, My Voter page.
Yeah. Also, while we're talking about the Spanish translation project, I wanted to share some information with you. We spoke with the Center for Elections Systems, which is part of the Secretary of State's website and is our ballot builder for our ballots. We had a meeting with Michael Barnes and Samantha Sheldon. Samantha is our actual ballot builder, by the way. We are to keep in mind that there are different dialects of Spanish. So when we look at a Spanish ballot, per se, for us in Athens-Clarke County, it may not say the same thing as a ballot of Gwinnett, depending on which dialect is being used in their translation. So we need to keep that in mind when we're responding to our community about, if they have questions or concerns about issues on the ballot. I was told that we need to rely heavily on our attorney's office when we're dealing with this. As well, that once we volunteer to provide Spanish translation, it is not recommended that we remove it. It's recommended that we continue to use it forever, that the Department of Justice may choose to sue us if we stop. So to keep that in mind. We will need to know the vision of our county, our board, within 4 weeks. They will begin building the projects for the November ballot in August, but there's a lot of preliminary processes that have to take place before that. So we had several questions for CES. Specifically, what did they need from us? And what we have to do is, once we receive the ballot proof, we will send it to Ad Astra, our vendor. Ad Astra will send us the ballot back translated in Word format. We will forward it back to our ballot project person, and then we will receive our data for proofing. During proofing, I will have to have someone from Ad Astra with me, and I'm thinking it will take about 5 hours to go through the proofing of that ballot. And we would both sign off on the ballot. It is, we also ask, and we're asking because we wanted to know kind of like, what are the other counties doing? Specifically, counties who are voluntarily providing this service versus Gwinnett, who was mandated. So again, what we would do is we would provide them the ballot in Word document. We would hire a Spanish proficient person, again, from Astra to help me with proofing. We would have someone who would also come in and help us with the LNA process and be able to sign off or listen to the audio ballot to ensure that it's read properly. So depending on your vision, anything descriptive must be in Spanish to maintain the integrity of the audio file on the BMDs. So that means instructions, race headers, text-based of questions, again, the audio file. So depending on our vision, we could decide not to do Spanish mail-out ballots and do ballot marking devices. If we do this ballot marking devices, the ballot will be created based on what the voter selects at the BMD. So they will be given a voter access card. And then when they put the access card in the ballot marking device, they will select English or Spanish. Whatever version they select would be the ballot that's actually printed. Then it goes over to the scanner to be read by the scanner. Paper ballots. I was reminded that Gwinnett County spent a time frame of 2 years, about 2 years, as they were mandated in building their configurations. There's 3 different types of configurations that we can consider when it comes to the paper ballot. We can do an English ballot, we can do a Spanish ballot, or we can do an English and Spanish ballot. So separate English, separate Spanish, and then a Spanish and English. It is recommended that we do a Spanish English together. Like you would have your instructions in English, you would have your instructions in Spanish. You would have same thing with the title of the ballot. You would have the office in English, the office in Spanish. You would have the party in English and Spanish. The names would not be in Spanish. Questions, same way. You would have the English version and then the Spanish version. Let's see. On the EMS reports, the SOVC reports and election summary reports that we produce after each election, the titles could be listed in Spanish or English and Spanish. So we have to decide that. It is my recommendation that we have it in English and then send it to our translator and let them translate it in Spanish. And then we just have it available upon request or post it on our website versus having it submitted to ENR in Spanish. I just feel like it's going to be a whole lot more to it than we're even ready for. My recommendation is, and this is after talking with PES and listening to, all of the different options that we have, also looking at our timelines, and just being very careful about how we approach this and how we introduce it. I would like for us to, as I mentioned, do the reports, have them translated in Spanish. And then as far as the ballot marking devices, that's where I feel we should take our approach, not to do the mail-out ballots. And to me, and this is coming from a strategic standpoint, as far as, I have to consider our budget, I have to consider the calls that we receive, I have to consider the manpower that we have. So my suggestion or recommendation would be to go with the ballot marking devices for November. Let us look at it, get the data. Later, look at the numbers. How many voters actually chose Spanish? Let's go through it, learn from it, improve it. And then if we need to add additional languages later, add those additional languages. And then consider investing in offering a paper ballot. The ballot marking device option touches the most voters with the easiest way to provide this option. And I've indicated, in my documentation that I submitted in the budget that for the ballot proofing, if 5 hours, it's gonna cost us $1,200. LNA, and these are estimates, 40 hours, that's 5 days of LNA, $12,000. Post-election translations, I estimate about $100 because the ballot is already translated in Spanish. I don't see there would be any need for them to translate again because it's the same thing. All they would be doing is putting numbers in this document. So it's a total of $13,200.
Could you send us that? That was a lot of
Yes.
information,
I will.
because I'm gonna read it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to point out is that we will very likely, based on the layout of the ballot and the contested races, we will likely have a runoff election for School District 2. And this will involve 6 polling locations. Those polling locations are Winterville Cultural Center. And there's about 1,500 voters that are assigned to School District 2. J.J. Harris Elementary School, there's about 800, close to 900 voters assigned to that particular location. Howard B. Stroud Elementary School has a little over 1,500 voters. Miriam Moore has the most. Miriam Moore's precinct, everybody at precinct has the same districts. That just amazes me. We don't have that often. But a little over 2,200 voters are represented by School District 2. The airport has close to 600 voters. And then Gaines Elementary School has a little over 900 voters. There's 7,640 voters who will be participating in this special election. Runoff. If we need to have a runoff, it will be because one of the 3 candidates did not receive the 50% plus 1 to win the election. And I would propose today for 2 advanced voting locations. Early voting is going to begin, and this is set by state law, on June 10th and end on Friday, June 14th. And it is my recommendation that we host advanced voting from 8 to 5 during those days and from 9 to 5 at Miriam Moore from 9 to 5. And that's something that I will ask for your vote on today so that we can go ahead and prepare the Secretary of State's office and get everything rolling to get that underway. So we're preparing for an election. Yes, we have an election coming up next week. We do have advanced voting going on right now. Tomorrow, we will have extended hours until 7 p.m. So if anybody has not voted yet, we hope that they will vote. Also, Audra's going to give you an update on absentee balloting. And Lisa's going to update you on the risk limiting audit and the approval of the poll managers for the general election.
Good evening. First, please excuse my technical error with the ORRs. Only look at the April ones. There were total of 10 for April, open record request.
Yeah, and we got some emails that I weren't sure if they were.
They were.
Or you're doing something.
Yeah, we're trying something different.
So it's not a phishing.
No, it's
Cyber security.
ACCUG. It's us.
Okay.
TP site. Uh-huh.
Yeah, maybe after the meeting, can I just show you them to make sure that I didn't want to click on them.
Yeah, it's official. So far with ballots on the director's report, on the activities report, the total for absentee ballots returned was 410. After this afternoon, it is now 438. I've only had to do 2 reissues so far. And there are 5 secure affidavits mailed out, which is a very low number out of 400 and something. So that's great. So hopefully they're gonna start pouring in with the next couple of days because we're not quite halfway there. Hopefully they're just, I mean, one day I got back 96, yesterday I had got 76. And then today in the mail, there were only 17.
One word, Alberto.
that's the word I was
Word, Alberto.
gonna say, the exact same thing.
Yes.
Yes, sir. We're just keeping our fingers crossed that they'll all get back to us in time.
Yep.
Hopefully.
I actually just checked my work email and one of the cure affidavits that I mailed out, they have emailed me their documents. So, yeah, so down to 4. And I am mailing those out like the same day. And, all the ballots we received have been put in. We're getting those put in the exact same day. There are none. When I leave in the evenings, there are none left to be done. When the mail comes, that's our focus, is to get them in before we leave. I think that's all I have.
Okay, so I get to talk to you about the poll managers and assistant managers that we have working on May 21st. Like we've done before, you've been provided with a list of all the managers and assistant managers that have been trained for this election. They've trained a minimum of 4 hours, minimum of 4 hours apiece. You'll notice that one of the people, I'm not gonna call a name, but one person is highlighted in yellow. That's because that person was unable to attend until tomorrow. So tomorrow she will have completed all of her training. They attended 2 classes, one that was designed for all poll workers and then an hour-long class for managers and assistant managers only. There's a large number of people. You'll notice there's more than 2 assistant managers per location, but we've decided to train to their pay grade. So even if you're not listed as one of the assistant managers at the precinct, if you are listed in payroll as an assistant manager, we're training to that level so that if you have to step in, you're able to do it with no problem. So that's why this list is so long.
I'd like to add that I went to a training and Renee, which is no shock to any of us, did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
We've managed to mix it up a little bit every time so that they're not bored by it.
It's
They
different than
enjoy it.
a few years ago.
And we try to do things that focus solely on what we've learned from the past election. Talk to them about those things, keep it fresh with them. We concentrated much more on hands-on training this time instead of doing online training because they just so recently worked an election and they seem to really like that a lot. Okay, so for the risk limiting audit that'll come after the election, May 30th and 31st, Thursday and Friday. Those are the 2 days it's scheduled for. Hopefully it will only go for 1 day. Recently, when we've done these audits, they've only taken like a total of 2 hours at the most to complete the entire process. We hope that it will be that way this time. We're scheduled on the 30th from 10 a.m. until 5. And then if we have to keep going to the next day, we'll start on the 31st at 9 a.m. and we will count until we finish, no matter what time that is, because the audit has to be completed on that day. We have 4 teams of people, 4 teams of 2 set up to come on the 30th and the 31st to do this process with us.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, Aletha, could you do an update with us on the vote review panel and the duplication team?
The vote review panel, we're only gonna have 1 team. We found that duplicating on the machine is working and it's working very well, so we don't need 4 extra people anymore. So we'll only have 4. However, I need one of you to be there on Monday as the BOE rep, because the BOE rep that we had would not be able to be there. So
Monday, the 20th.
Monday, the 20th at 2 p.m.
And they'll serve as both the duplication team and the vote panel.
Can probably, you can.
I'll be alternate. That's okay.
I think open records request.
12:30.
Already did
That's
that.
what we discussed with my technicality.
Gotcha. I know that's when I was showing papers. Thank you, Audra. That's all I have.
Sorry,
Questions?
it'll be me on Monday. If not, if I can't make it, it'll be Will.
When, as long as one of y'all show up for me at 2 o'clock, well, a little before 2.
Yeah, but 12:30 appointment, so that should be fine.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sorry.
We're good.
We're good, okay. Any pressing questions? Anyone from the report?
I have questions, but it relates more to the new business item, so I'll wait.
Okay. Thank you for your report. Next item on the agenda is old business, and there is no old business to conduct, so we will move on to new business. Item number 1, discussion of change for November, possibility of relocating the polling place currently found at Winterville Cultural Center. Advanced voting, right?
Yes, just at that.
I think that is that important distinction.
Yes, very.
Do you want to speak to that first? Then we can.
Yes. So initially, when we requested use of the cultural center, I believe there was maybe some kind of misunderstanding or just not enough knowledge of knowing how long we would need the cultural center. Basically, it hinders them from some of the resources that they get from renting location. So I asked if we could just continue using the location until our board could make a decision like later in the year. So I'm thinking November, that we should either consider no longer voting at the cultural center and allowing our voters to access the Miriam Moore location and the tennis center. Specifically because the statistics that we're getting with the cultural center, they have dropped drastically since we've added the tennis center. And if I can just, I'm trying to, memory is here, that even since we've started advanced voting, they have had, I believe, less than 50 voters Saturday and Monday, less than 50. Whereas the Miriam Moore Community Center, I believe it was a little higher. And of course, the tennis center was higher. The other option is there are 2 churches in the Winterville area that we could use or consider as locations. It's just a matter of contacting those churches to see if they will be willing to afford us the time and the space for the entire week. And that
For clarity, it's advanced voting. We're intending on keeping cultural center for election day because we went through a whole process and you can't just.
Yes. It's a conversation that needs to be had now because, you know, November's just around the corner and we need to, and since the CES is already starting to work on our November ballot projects, this is one of the things that is part of the project.
Do you need us to make a decision today?
Well, I'm thinking by the next meeting.
Anyone have any comments or concerns, or do we have a consensus? We can make a decision now.
Just kind of feel like, where the cultural center, where the cultural center is located, that the traffic flow would either be going toward the tennis center or passing by Miriam Moore. You understand what I'm saying? If, you know, if we're not gonna be able to use it on, just for, advanced voting. So what, Director Sosby has suggested that we split it up. It sounds good to me.
I'm in favor of it too, so.
See nothing.
The floor is open for a motion if you want
Would
to
we
just.
like to wait and hear from Ann, Ms. Till, next time we meet? If it's not something that has to be decided
Well, I
now.
will be absent from that meeting, so was the thought I had in my head.
We should-
Would it be helpful if you just had a,
If we decide
For now.
today, would it be more helpful?
Yeah, it would.
Okay.
The sooner the better.
so
I-
floor is open.
I move that, we make, the Miriam Moore and the tennis center, the advanced voting, use those two instead of, because there's something that has come up instead of the, cultural center. Animal straighten that conversation out.
I'll second that.
Want to wait for the straightening or
He's got it.
just read it when you're ready?
Is the idea to discontinue using the Winterville Cultural Center as an advanced voting location for the November election? Is that the idea?
Think entirely.
I think we're going with, is this permanent?
Yes.
Yes,
Beginning with the November election.
yes.
Is that okay with you? That's a strong verb. Is that okay to use the verb discontinue? To discontinue.
And I think the earlier we can get that information out, the better.
Yes. Voting location.
You'll also put signs out there. As we normally do, we'll say advanced voting is hosted at this location. So we'll put that out there.
So what about motion by Ms. Fambro to discontinue using the Winterville Cultural Center as an advanced voting location, beginning with advanced voting for the November election? Is that opportunity important?
Yeah.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Kadir.
All those in favor? Say aye. Opposed? All right, tap. All right, next item on the agenda under new business are the advanced voting dates, times, locations for the June runoff, if necessary. What's the date of that? I should know. The 18th?
18th. Yeah.
This week. Given those are the districts that are most likely to be a runoff, I think, as presented is, seems like a good idea to me. I was wondering if we could put the Saturday, the 8th in there.
Yeah, that's been
Oh.
set by state law.
Oh. And we definitely cannot do the 15th.
Right.
That was my only question and concern on that one. What else have a comment?
June 18th, right, is when the runoff would be.
That would be the election day, that Tuesday, yeah.
So we would not be, if we were to pursue it as, I have no problem with that, we would not be calling a runoff. We can't call it runoff until it's needed. Is there any kind of problem with, I remember there was in the past, somebody advised us against making contingent motions or pending something, waiting until it was actually, the writing was on the wall that there was going to be a runoff. Is that, I might be misunderstanding something from the attorney's office. Is that, would we be okay, as far as y'all are concerned, proceeding with approving this recommendation in the event that a runoff were needed?
We're good.
That's the only concern that I have.
So are we. Either of you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, you can always call a special meeting to do it.
That's what I was saying, but looking at this, I don't see where we would.
Yes.
Tight.
It has to be three people.
Yeah.
No, like the
There's
race,
only one election that can be, right?
Yeah, there's only one
That's
election.
something, one election like that.
Right.
even
Yeah.
if 0 people vote and a 2-person, it's still, you know.
That's the only one with 3 candidates.
Plus one.
Right, okay. Floor is open for a motion to accept the advanced voting proposal as presented in the director's report.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Advanced voting dates, times, and locations are approved if needed. Next item on the agenda is request for ACC Commission to include funding in FY 25 budget for additional Spanish translation. This was put on the agenda by Mr. Shirley, so I'll let him go first. But I think the director probably could add some more to what you've been saying. Okay.
Sure. Director Sosby, I just wanted to begin the item by asking for a recap. You answered a lot of the questions I was going to have in the director's report. But I still have a few. The recommendations you're making for if we were to decide, because I'll back up a little further, the context. We in November, I believe it was, or October, we discussed requesting formally in the budget process to leave the door open for ourselves to come back in May or June to decide whether we wanted to go all in or continue or cut bait and go home on the translation. We had to ask for that money because if we were to decide we liked it and the money weren't there, it wouldn't matter whether we decided not to or not. So we have made the request and that left the door open for us if approved. But from what I'm understanding from reading the report you put to us, the money request was not included in the mayor's current budget incarnation that is before the commission. But then what you're recommending and what you're recommending, how we proceed with BMDs and this, that, and the other, is there enough in the budget as it currently is proposed to the commission for that to happen?
It is not, move things around, that's hard to say. If we could find that we don't use all of the $15,000 in the FY 24 budget and be able to transfer it over to FY 25, that's not likely. It hasn't been likely for us to do it in other areas. But that is a conversation I think that could be had because it is a project. It was a special project. So I could check to see if that money could be.
Even though it's not happening, it's not a table or whatever. But
Right. And it was like a special program. This was a new initiative, special program. I could ask that question and see where that goes. But that's still, if we're correct on the estimate of 16,000. That doesn't mean that if it goes higher, that we're gonna have the money to.
I see.
well,
And I guess I'm chomping at the bit to have the full discussion about whether we want to do this. But if the money's not going to be there, I'd rather us not go through all of that than not have the money. And it sounds like in the current incarnation, and I keep saying that because the budget's not final till the commission approves it. And the mayor received it from the manager's office. The mayor has formally submitted it to the commission. So it's still in flux. The paint's not dry yet. The ink's not dry yet. So there's a chance, but right now, the way it is right now, if it sails through the way it is right now, we don't have the money, from your understanding, to achieve what we would like to achieve with full translation. Is that right?
That's right. We don't have it.
So, and at their June meeting, is it what? At their June meeting, is that when the commission will finalize their budget usually? Is that by the end of June?
I don't believe it's in June. I think there might be some conversation in today's meeting about the budget.
Right. I think they're having their taxpayers' bill of rights meetings, things like that. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'll wrap up my initial comments. I want to have this discussion and hopefully persuade y'all, but we have to persuade or at least get enough support from 6 commissioners to make it even happen. So I don't know what thoughts y'all have on that. I'd love to hear more from the staff too.
we're done.
I am. Yes, thank you.
I'm a little confused as how we arrived at this number. Because the board, I think there's still a small misunderstanding. We requested 45.
That was our.
My memory.
Well, it was 60 but we were like, whoa, 45. So that's what you put in. And then there's like a vacuum of information or something happened in the manager's office.
It
And
was,
then, but, so there's that. And then my other question and concern is, so as we talked about it being a new initiative, new meaning new for FY '24, now something that happened in FY '24 is no longer new, it's general operating. So where of that 45, did any of it go into the general operate? That's where I'm a little confused as
Right.
to.
right. So when I presented the budget, it was for $45,000 as a new initiative. And regardless of where I requested, it was cut, the whole 45. So when I went before the panel consisted of the finance department, human resources, I think PIO was in. Anyway, I went before the panel and I presented my budget. And the questions that were asked was, did we get specific estimates? No, we didn't. We went with 45 based on the numbers that we received from Gwinnett County, how much it cost them per voter. That's how we come about. And so I was asked to go back to the drawing board, come back with a number that's closer to what I feel the estimate should be. And that's when I came up with the 29,000, 29,005. So that's what was presented to the mayor. They call it big rocks, I think is what they refer to it as. And so, so that particular portion, the 29,005 was not approved. What was approved was what I noted it there. So that 45 or 29 was not approved as an increase. And when I present the budget, I presented according to, this is what our budget was last year, and this is how much more we need to operate in the next budget. That's how it's presented. And that particular amount was for the compensation for part-time, your compensation, and then the translation for Spanish. And as it was noted, it was awarded for the compensation portion of it, the personnel services, but nothing in operations was approved to, in addition to what we had in the last budget. So regardless of where it was, if it was new initiative of operations, it just wasn't.
Okay. Biting my tongue a bit, I think I'll say it. I mean, what if someone were to do an open records request on this conversation in the manager's emails? Like, not accusing, but I'm just wondering what happened. Like, I've seen a lot of pushback from that office in these meetings.
I don't recall any emails that I responded to. I just provided the spreadsheet that I provided you guys. So if there were any other emails that were exchanged that were with me.
Well, my view is, doesn't matter if the manager's office did not include it in the budget that they proposed. This is a political issue. The mayor, if the mayor and commission want Spanish language translation at the level that the board seems to be pushing, board as a whole, then they will go ahead and they can add it anytime. This is not an issue. So if you have 6 commissioners who are willing to do it, write to them and ask them to approve it. I don't think it matters what was presented and what is approved. I think we're trying to make this more of an administrative process, and it should be a political process. I like the way that Gwinnett has done it. It starts at the mayor and commission, filters it down. Then it doesn't matter how I personally feel about it. I'm still very skeptical whether the money spent is worth it, but I'm willing to go along because I know there's a lot of Spanish-speaking people in town. Maybe we get a few more votes. But this is a political issue. It doesn't matter what the managers think.
So
That's where I stand.
we're in the 10th month? 11th month of the fiscal year. And we've only spent $400 of the 15,000. So is 29 even needed? I mean, you mentioned there was.
You have to give it back, right, at the end of the year?
Yeah.
No?
Money that's
Oh,
already
okay.
allocated.
It's there.
That is good.
It's there. It's there.
And a lot of the, I never saw this actually. So some of the work has been done.
Well, not the ballot though.
Some of the work does not need to be repeated annually.
But you got translation of the ballot proofing. You're gonna be looking at more of like labor expense, is
Yeah.
what you're gonna be looking more for with the November election. Because as you can see, the translation of our sample ballot, it wasn't as, I can't remember the cost, but it's in that packet. The translation of the sample ballot equals to,
$240?
yeah, $245. But that was one ballot or 4 different ballot styles. When you look at a general election ballot, it's gonna be multiple ballot. It's gonna be probably, I'm gonna say roughly 90 ballots. Not everything on it is gonna be or need to be translated like on every ballot, but there's gonna be different ballot styles. So you're figuring that in, and then you figure in, like I said, labor costs, because someone has to come in and actually do the proofing. Somebody's gotta go in and actually do the LNA. Somebody's gotta go in and actually listen to the audio. That would also cover any kind of legal costs that we might end up having to pay. Ads will have to, of course, we know that ads are gonna have to be translated. So
So, excuse me, are we talking about a lot of contract work that's gonna have to be paid?
So as it stands now, if the budget, if no changes are made to the budget that was presented, if no changes to the elections office are made to in the budget that clears the commission, what do you expect we could reasonably hope to accomplish with translation with the funding that's still left over from fiscal 24?
I think more signs, we won't have a ballot by June 30th that could be translated from the November ballot. We wouldn't have that. And my understanding is there's gonna be at least 2 amendments. And referendums, I think. What I recall. So it wouldn't be much we could do in this budget.
So we have signs, and I see in here, we had translated the voter registration form, I believe, or the absentee application maybe. But what you had mentioned in the director's report about if we were to go with the BND's translation, that would not be something funding currently exists. Okay. I really like if we could try the BMDs. I like there's the data, there's the numbers. We can see how many people click Spanish, and we would have very hard numbers to look at and say, here's how many people are using it. And once we've already gone into that, if we commit to that, we've been advised, we stick with it. We can't back out of that once we go in.
Exactly.
I had hoped that we would be able to have more data to inform this conversation before we decided to ask the commission. But it looks like it needs to be not now or never, but you mentioned 4 weeks from now would be when you would like, when CES advised you to have our vision, I think is what you said on this. And that'll be right around the time of our June meeting, but you won't be here for that. I don't like that this is not, I don't like the timing on this, which doesn't really help it, but do y'all have any appetite at all to have a discussion about whether we have a resolution that we submit to the commission asking for an amount that would get us this, or y'all have been very, very open-minded so far. I don't
I'm in favor of a resolution. I also talked to Kelly on the phone when this was sent to us, and he's like, oh, I thought it was in there, so. I don't know that that's why I made that comment about a conspiracy earlier. Like,
Yeah, it's somebody.
it was his understanding, but he's also the mayor, and he's not gonna go, okay, leisure services is spending $3 on shoelaces and whatever, and, so.
But where are you two at with this?
Well,
Like, are
the
you-
first thing that popped into my head was that we need to make some kind of contact with the commissioners about what we feel our desires are for this project. Because therein, it'll be a yay or nay. It will be clean cut, nothing hanging. So I think, like I said, it was the first thing that popped into my head is to contact them, and tell them, why we feel this and there's a need, which we've already discussed that. And go, for, as far as for me, to go from there, because that's where the final cut comes from.
Right.
The approval or disapproval.
So you will do that in the form of a resolution to the mayor and commission. Well, if it comes to that, I cannot support it this time, because I really feel that if it is something the mayor and commission wanted to do it, they will find a way to put it in the budget. And maybe the director can correct me, even if it doesn't go in the budget, but in a couple of months from now, they feel strongly enough that something should be added. They have discretionary funds. They can always add it later. I think there is time for them to add it if there was the political will of this commission to do. If they aren't looking at it, then they haven't received it, but I'm sure they've been individually praised that this has been left out, then I just don't think they have the worth, and I cannot support this. If they came back and said, let's put in the budget, I'm all in. I mean, whether I like it or whether I believe there's any benefit or not. But here's one last comment, if I may, Mr. Chair. I like that money that's in there. To me, it's not about BMDs for the Spanish language. To me, it's more about registering more voters. Now, if we have that kind of money, and if we can use it for some kind of a voter drive for Spanish-speaking folks, wherever and whoever they are in town, I would be very, very pleased to see that money going there, whether we have BMDs or not. Folks first have to register before they come to your BMDs or before they decide to, apply for an absentee ballot. So I see a lot of money there to be able to target it towards that. That is what I would feel. For me, it's just, I don't feel comfortable asking the mayor and commission for something. They have taken it out. I don't think this is something they have not thought about. I could be wrong. I don't have proof of that. I'm not in contact with any mayor or commission, any commissioner or mayor on that. So that's where I come.
Yeah, two things to respond to that, if you don't mind. You don't know what you're leaving out unless you're told, unless you're reminded. I mean, there's, how many departments are there that need things that are, rhetorical question, it's fine. These people are executives. They're not,
They're
Looking
not
at-
trying to come.
yeah, I mean, so you need to be reminded of those things. So I think that's what the purpose of the resolution would be. And again, I don't feel confident that it was left out intentionally.
And that's the way I look at it, it's not like we're demanding it, but here we are. We are we're on the board and this is what we think. It has not been presented to them like that. And if all just the cold figures, understand what I'm saying? But I would like to go forward with some kind of movement toward that, whatever form it is in, that I want to know that they are aware of, because look at the departments and the many departments that are submitting, if I was on the commission, I don't even know where I would be that diligent to look at everything, every line item. I don't think so. And it's not anything to say that they aren't doing their job, but time does not, they don't have that kind of time. They'll be out there 24/7, just going through everybody's budget. So I just want to feel like we need to just make them aware.
Now, I'm all for that. If the resolution calls for that, commissioners, please realize that this initiative has been taken out and we would like you all to consider putting it back in, and this is the cost. That I can support. But if your resolution is going to be, we are asking $45,000 or whatever it is to have towards the implementation of the project, I cannot go with that, but that's like asking for money that they haven't even thought about this project, like.
Part of that, I'd rather have a more general unanimous statement than a,
Than one that
Than a
does not
less-
have unanimous consideration.
yeah, I'd rather have a more generalized statement.
Okay.
I think the director did make this DOJ thing is frightening to me.
I know, right?
I didn't know that they would,
Okay, I'm paying attention now.
yeah. Thinking of timeline moving forward, obviously we can't just whip one up right now. We could, but I have another meeting at 6 o'clock, fortunately, and I'm sure the attorney's office would like to aid in. Speaking of,
Yes.
we're talking about you.
Talking about you.
She's leaving.
It was generalization though, it wasn't.
I think it sounds
Yeah.
I think that. I don't, I'm not sure, but I can.
But y'all are talking about me.
No, we're not.
No,
We're talking about the
The
budget process.
Yes, Ms. Ovita, at the school district office.
It's good to see you.
You know, this is the second meeting we've had today.
Yeah.
We trying to get home too.
Y'all do you do.
Just saying.
Nice seeing y'all.
You too.
That's
I think-
case in point.
I think
Right
that's a
there.
great.
Right there.
There you go.
Yeah, they have so much on their, right, like, this is the most important thing to us
Anyway.
right here, but
Yeah.
we're.
Let's,
There.
let's come back to timeline of this. I know election day is not the most ideal time to deal with something like this. But can we draft and can we revisit perhaps with just Sherry and us? Or a representative from your office? Does that give you enough time to?
As far as requesting the mayor and commission to add it to the.
No. Helping, aiding us in drafting the resolution.
Oh.
And I was thinking of the next time we would be meeting, because they all have to go and do their actual job, right? You have a few minutes extra or, Courtney, I want to call her Pam, Courtney. Tuesday, does that work for you timeline wise?
Not, usually I'm running right after this meeting on Tuesday.
Okay.
Plus, remember, if there's a quorum of the body working on something anyways, it would still be an open meeting, so.
Right,
But
it would be, what,
if
so we would conduct
if it's less than a quorum.
Okay.
Um,
two of us.
Exactly.
Could we have a draft to you by Friday and then you could say, hey,
That would
suggest
probably
changing these
fine.
things by Tuesday and we can,
Yeah, I will tell you, I'm not gonna be in the office after noon on Friday, due to other obligations, so that would only give me Monday and Tuesday, whatever that, so I mean, resolutions are not typically terribly complicated, so, and again, Courtney, I mean, one of us probably could do it, I just.
but two of us meet you at 4 o'clock? Tuesday,
Tuesday.
prior to that meeting, that way we can just do this, if it's good, and we can sign it in the meeting and be done.
Oh, it's not opening up for some reason.
Sure.
I think that's right, oh, yeah,
It's just, your meeting's at 4:30, right?
yeah,
Well, actually, that was a question we had. We didn't have one on the books. Yeah.
I think it's at 4:30. Don't want to meet a little sooner, so.
Don't we typically meet at 4:30?
Yeah, I mean, but meet sooner with the resolution.
yeah, but basically it was about 15-20 minutes.
He said.
Yeah, I mean, Courtney can meet on,
Said meet at 4.
Yeah, but you're not a traffic getting over to.
It's right, because it's over planning, or not planning, but,
yeah, can you guys meet us at planning at 4? We have that,
we're at Lexington, right?
Warehouse.
Lexington, thank you for
Yeah.
planning. Yes.
That should be feasible.
Is everyone logistically think that's okay?
I can't be there.
Okay. Can you?
But
This is what I'm gonna say on that.
Again, it would have to be 2 people, or we need to notice it in the meeting.
Yeah, I am. These two, and the reason that I.
Okay.
Because you all are gonna have to merge kind of his thinking and the rest of our thinking into
That's a great
something
idea.
that we can all use.
absolutely.
Does that work for you?
The 24th, that Friday,
21st, 4 o'clock,
21st.
election
Election
day.
day.
Yes, yes.
Oh, 21st is Tuesday, right? Oh, yeah.
It is.
Mhm.
So either you or Courtney or someone could meet us at Lexington, 4 o'clock. Hank and myself will. Can you start the draft?
Sure.
Yeah.
You just get the bones out and then we can.
Yeah.
I really appreciate y'all's continued patience and open-mindedness with this. I know you have not signed on anything yet, but just the fact that you're still keeping an open mind, I really appreciate it.
And I just want to make a comment, and I know the passion you have put into this, the time you have put into this, Adam, it has not got wasted. I just not seen, like you said, wish we had data today to know how much is there in embedded. And I'm not seeing the mayor and commission helping us out, but like you said, maybe the mayor and commission hasn't seen it, so this is the right thing.
And to help inform the process, to give us some hard numbers, what amount, if not now, if you would mind emailing us, what amount you think is still the same number you could come up with?
I would
amount.
think the 29.4 would be, yes.
And then that would get,
So where did the 16 come from? Did I dream that up? 16, you had mentioned.
The one for Ad Astra and
Oh, that was just to do the balance. That wasn't for everything like the ads and to do all the other translations of signs that we haven't done yet. We're gonna try to get as many signs as we can get done in this budget year, but yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I'm-
So then,
The two of us all.
one last way to phrase this. If the commission does not act, does not support whatever we might propose to them, then we have enough allocation remaining to do things like signs. Do you think we could do one more sample composite ballot for the November election like we have for this?
I think it would be too costly. We just do like a composite ballot like I did.
Okay, so that's what
It'd be
that's
$200, which should be, yeah.
in the event that we do not get what we might have.
Funding.
But if we do get what we're asking for, we're shooting for the moon.
Yes.
Would be what we talked about before, that we would be running for B&Ds, but like you recommended, if we put your recommendations, we would hold off on absentee mail-out ballots and call them until a later date. This would be just for the next baby step would be B&Ds.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. And Chairman Raffle, if I could also mention that we're gonna have those sample ballots at the precincts on election day for referencing. I did mention to Mary Beth to make sure we get those laminated and available.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Final item are announcements. We do not have a meeting formally scheduled for Tuesday, May 21st at 4:30.
It is on the calendar.
Oh. Which calendar? Yours?
The ACC Gov calendars.
Oh.
Because I was checking.
Okay, well, there you go.
And the May 24th.
And then a logistical question that came up. So say we were to have the election on June 18th. June 19th is a federal holiday. Does that move our certification to Monday? Since we don't have that pure consecutive year days?
It's the Juneteenth. Oh, that's a good question, because not everybody has that as a holiday.
So it's a federal holiday.
And state, isn't it?
Oh, it is now? Oh, good, okay.
It's a federal holiday.
I didn't know it had gone. this way.
ACC Gov employees get it off, I think, but it's also a federal holiday.
Okay,
Juneteenth.
oh, yeah, that's 14.
that's a good question. I may even have it in,
Yeah,
It's 19.
let me check. I may even have that in my.
But that's only gonna affect the curing and this, and
It affects a lot more.
the provisional
Go pick up
ballots.
equipment for us.
Yes.
That day.
Yeah, and provisional ballots. Yeah, thank you for bringing it to our attention. Yeah. 22nd.
I've been planning my Father's Day outing for the 19th, so that's how it's on my mind.
So we got,
Yeah, we'll update y'all at the next meeting.
we got that one on the 20th,
Yes,
21st.
yes.
Okay. That'll give you some time to figure that out. Then,
Positive thoughts.
our next, regular meeting is June 11th, which I will be absent. The runoff is necessary. So if we end up having an election on June 18th, June 7th will be the deadline to request absentee ballot. June 10th will be the start of advanced voting. Tuesday, June 18th will be the runoff. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I was gonna move.
Second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.